The website, 8points9seconds.com, is predominantly a Pacers website. You cover the Pacers extensively on that website, but you also write for Fansided and cover general NBA as well. But let's start with the Pacers, a team that, obviously the moment that Paul George's leg broke last summer, I don't think anybody really gave the Pacers much of a chance to do anything this season. Fortunately for them, they're in the Eastern Conference where a 34-winning season gets you into the playoffs. They came up just a bit short, but just some general thoughts from you as somebody that follows the team from start to finish. Thoughts on how the season played out and maybe some early thoughts on how next season's going to look.
Yeah, I mean, I think it went pretty well. Obviously, it was disappointing at the end. They unexpectedly, I guess, got themselves real close to the playoffs, had their own, destiny controlled, and just could not beat the Grizzlies there to sneak in. But, I mean, I think a lot of fans are disappointed. They wanted a better pick. The Pacers are probably going to get the 14th, 15th pick in the draft now. They could have just tanked all season, played Donald Sloan, 38 minutes a night, and probably gotten a top 5, top 6 pick. But I just disagree with that kind of philosophy in general. And I think a lot of good things happened this year. I mean, C.J. Miles turned into a player who looks like a steal now. I mean, they signed him last summer for a 4-year deal, and now they're paying him $4 million a year. They're going to have him around for at least 2, maybe 3 more years. I mean, he's exactly what you need next to Paul George on the wing, I think. Rodney Stuckey on a minimum deal. I mean, he played his tail off all season. Sounds like they're going to bring him back. There was talk today in Bird's press conference about certain players not caring how much they get paid. They just want to be back, and there wasn't a name attached with that. That sounds like Rodney Stuckey. I mean, he's just had the best season since his probably second, third year in the league. He must just love his life now in Indiana. So George Hill also, he had the best season he's had in 4 years, probably 3 years at least. So, I mean, those things don't probably happen if you're just tanking all year and you're shutting guys down with injury. And the team wanted to make the playoffs. Those guys tried hard. I mean, even Louis Scola and stuff like that. I mean, we saw a really, really strong commitment to trying to make the playoffs for all these guys. And I just think ultimately the difference between a 14 pick and a 9 pick or an 8 pick, I really don't know what that's actually going to be. I mean, you got to hit. After you're out of the top 5, you got to hit on someone. You got to scout well. You got to pick someone. So I think they're still going to get a fine player, and I think they did a lot of good team building that's going to, when they bring Paul George back next year, I think it's really going to allow them to seamlessly start the year. And I mean, they'll probably get a 4 or 5 seed next year, depending on what happens this summer.
Well, now you kind of answered. Go ahead. Oh, that's me talking. Never mind. I'm sorry. I can hear a little bit of an echo. But you kind of answered my question there, asking, if you thought this was a team that could contend in the East next year. Obviously, with if the Bulls can get Derrick Rose healthy and everybody healthy through an entire season, the Cavaliers are going to be the Cavaliers next year. They're always going to be tough. But I think there's room for the Pacers. Obviously, room for improvement. But I think if they can get everybody back full strength, I think you're right. I think they got a chance to be a 4 or 5 seed next season. Jared Wade from 8points9seconds.com joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 and online, ESPNEvansville.com. Also writes for Fansided.com. And let's get into some of these playoff scenarios here, Jared. And let's start with that series that could have featured the Pacers. It doesn't because the Brooklyn Nets won and the Pacers lost. But how do you see this Brooklyn-Atlanta series playing out? Because Atlanta, you're looking at a team that obviously played very great all season long with really no major big-name players in there, and that's why we kind of joke around like I can only maybe name one player on the Hawks, and yet they're the number 1 seed in the East. But they kind of dealt with some injuries down the stretch, stumbled a little bit as they got closer to the playoffs. The Nets may be playing with some momentum after they get the big win that puts them into the playoffs. Does Brooklyn have any kind of a chance to advance past this series?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
I mean, I think Brooklyn played really well. I think after the All-Star break, Brook Lopez looked as good as he had in years. Darren Williams showed a few flashes of, the Darren Williams that we, looked like a Hall of Famer early in his career. But I just don't think they have enough. The Hawks are in a little bit of, a precarious situation entering the playoffs. Paul Millsap's got a banged up shoulder. I think he played in the season finale, and he's, gonna be going for the first round, but I don't think he's gonna be 100%. Maybe for a few weeks. And then Dabo Cephalosha, he was on the scene after Chris Copeland got stabbed in New York, and allegedly from him, the cops threw him on the ground and broke his leg, and regardless of what happened, he's out for the whole playoffs now. So he established stuff low. He's not Scottie Pippen or anything, but he was a decent defensive player in their rotation, and they're going to miss him. That said, I mean, we're talking about a Brooklyn Nets team that barely made the playoffs, was well below 500 this year. So, I mean, the Hawks won 60 games. They're gonna handle them pretty easily.
You see that as being a sweep?
Yeah, you never know. Brook Lopez could have a real good game, and if Millsap maybe re-injures something and misses a bit of game 2 or 3, I could see them stealing a game. But I mean, I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be easily handled. Maybe 5 games at most.
Well, Bucks and Bulls, Chicago, been a team for several years now that everybody says they've got what it takes to win it all, but yet they've not done it. And Derrick Rose is back. I don't know if he's 100% yet or not. The Bucks, maybe the story of the NBA. They won 15 games last year. Jason Kidd puts them in the playoffs this year. That's a pretty good turnaround. This series could be good, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the Bucks really struggled down the stretch, but I think they've got something going there. They've got. Giannis, the Greek freak, he's really exciting. I really want to see what he can do in the playoffs, especially if Jason Kidd gives him a little more leeway to do things. And I just don't think the Bulls are that great. You got Powell, and then Jimmy Butler have had tremendous seasons. Taj Gibson's just kind of getting back from injury. Derrick Rose just getting back from injury. So, I mean, I think it'll be competitive. I expect the Bulls to move on for sure. But I just don't see the Bulls as really scaring anyone, and they're not as dominant on defense as they used to be, and they're still not a great offensive team. So it's just they're a little bit like those Pacers. They're not really going to blow like from years past. They're not going to blow anybody out. So the games will probably be close in the fourth quarter, and I think Milwaukee can maybe get a couple.
Talking to Jared Wade, 8points9seconds.com, also writes for fansided.com, discussing NBA playoffs. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 and online. ESPNEvansville.com. Let me stick with Milwaukee for just a second here, because you're talking about a team that was a 15-win team last year, if I'm not mistaken, and yet here they find themselves in the playoffs. How much credit does Jason Kidd deserve for that?
Yeah, a ton. Yeah, he's looking like a really excellent coach. You don't really know how much he's an X's and O's guy. I mean, he's a brilliant basketball mind, you know that, but he seems a little more of the kind of the Doc Rivers camp, in the sense of he can get people to play. I mean, half these guys, they have a young team, so maybe not them, but half the opponents he's playing against, they're playing against, they know him well. He played on all-star teams with these guys and things like that. So I think he's just a coach guys like and want to play for him, and seems to be having all the motivational tricks to get them going. Like, they struggled down the stretch. I mean, they traded away Brendan Knight, and that's probably going to hurt them this year. But, I mean, they look set up now for the next few years. They got a decent young nucleus, and it's a really impressive story. I mean, if they had closed a little better, I think they were under 500 since the All-Star break or around there. Probably would have been an even better story. They could have gotten up towards 45 wins, and that would have been a tremendous story. Now, at 41-41, it's hard to get too excited, but I think going into next season, they have a really bright future.
Awesome. Jared Wade from 8points9seconds.com joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. Let's jump to this Raptors-Wizards matchup, and then we'll get into the Celtics and the Cavs here in just a second. I don't feel like anybody's talking about this Raptors-Wizards matchup at all. Like, it's not the sexy matchup for the first round here, but you're talking about both teams kind of limping into the playoffs with sub-500 records since, I think, February the 18th. How do you see this playing out?
It's a funny thing. As someone who, I spend a lot of time on Twitter kind of going back and forth with fans, and the Wizards and especially the Raptors both early in the season had these fan bases that were just, they would just be yelling at writers on Grantland and other mainstream, websites. Why aren't you writing more about the Raptors? Why are you talking about the Wizards? And they did. Both teams looked really, really good to start the year, and they've just tailed off. I mean, I don't think anyone is scared of them. I mean, they went all in to beat the Pacers for no reason last week, and just to play spoiler, and they couldn't even beat them. The Pacers played terrible, and they couldn't even beat them. John Wall didn't play well. No one really looked great on the Wizards. I thought they were going to be a better team. They had some promising plays last year. They had some promise against the Pacers in the second round. It looked like this season they were going to put it all together, but they've just fallen off a cliff. And same thing for Toronto. It's kind of just in the East, they're one of the two teams that's going to be a sacrificial lamb in the next series to, Cavs and the Hawks.
Well, Paul Pierce is a name that obviously he knows the playoffs, and he's been there, done that. But John Wall, a player that, he's good. But how good is he on a consistent basis? It seems like sometimes you get John Wall, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think his biggest issue probably is still his jump shot. It's not really feared, and he still takes it a lot. So it can really, when he's on, they're playing great, and when he's not, they struggle a little bit more. I'm a big fan of his, but he's certainly still underperforming, I guess, as far as leading a team. I think regular season, game-to-game basis, you'll see him do more impressive things than almost anyone in the East. He's kind of with that. He was kind of with that Kyrie Irving level of these guys look like as soon as they get a good team behind them, they're going to jump to that next level, prove all the doubters wrong, and it helps that Kyrie got LeBron and is kind of starting to do that. But John Wall still kind of hasn't done that yet. And as many great plays, as well as he runs the pick and roll, he's a very good setup man. More so than I think people give him credit for, and a great scorer, but for whatever reason, he's just not been able to put it all together.
Who do you like in that series, Jared, between, like you said, I think you're right, whoever wins, it's just a sacrificial lamb for whoever they run into next, but who do you like to come out of that series between Toronto and Washington?
Toronto's got home court, so I think that would probably be the better play, the better bet, but I'm going to go with the Wizards. Like I said, I still have optimism for him. I still think John Wall's going to have a couple 30-point games and put people on his back like I expect him to. Paul Pierce will maybe make a big shot late in one of these games, so I'll take the Wizards.
Well, the Raptors lead that series 3-0 on the year, That's automatic, isn't it?
Like I said, it's probably not the smart pick, but
is that your upset pick?
I think I want John Wall and that team to be better than they are.
Yeah, that's the upset pick, like Ryan said. Yeah.
Jared Wade, 8.9seconds.com, joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville, 105.3 online, ESPNEvansville.com. And finally, there in the East, and then we'll touch on a few of these series out west. Celtics, Cavaliers. Obviously, we're familiar with Brad Stevens in this neck of the woods, having been the coach up at Butler. Has done a tremendous job with very little talent up there in Boston. They're not going to win this series, don't get me wrong there, but they could cause some problems for the Cavs, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, since they got Isaiah Thomas, they've been tremendous. They've looked real good. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the Pacers couldn't make the playoffs. It looked like after they won on the 11 of 13, George Hill was back, that everything was going to be good. But the Celtics and the Nets, they both played just really good basketball down the stretch. I mean, they were going into those games against 500 teams, and you expected them to win, and they just kept winning. And, yeah, I mean, you got to give Brad Stevens a lot of credit for this, because they started off the season with, they had Jeff Green on the roster and Rajon Rondo, and then those guys both got traded at different times. So I forget who was kind of saying it, but they've almost had 3 different teams throughout this season, and he keeps kind of just like reforming them and remaking them into whatever the team needs to get out there. And he's got these guys all behind him, and I think they can win. I mean, they're foolish if they think that, but they kind of have that cockiness and that sort of mentality. So Cleveland's really big up front. They've got LeBron, Kyrie, even Kevin Love. They might have the best 4 players in that series, So I don't think it's going to be much of trouble. But I think, Boston will make it fun. It won't be blowouts.
Does anybody beat Cleveland in the East, or do they take that and play for a title?
I think the Hawks could beat them. The Hawks are liable to shoot 60% in a game 4 times in a series. And if that happens, you just can't beat a team that's making 15 three-pointers a night. And that's definitely possible. And while Cleveland's a better defensive team than they were, they're still not in that upper echelon, with Golden State and some of these other squads that really, really play some good defense. So it's definitely possible, especially if Millsap is fully healthy by the Eastern Conference Finals. I'd put my money on Cleveland, but I think people are kind of overlooking Atlanta a little bit. I think that'll be a very competitive 6-game series, or even 7.
So do you have a set pick Can we prod a pick out of you? Is it Cleveland, or are you going to give the edge to Atlanta out of the East?
No, who's going to make the finals in the East? I'll pick Cleveland for sure.
There we go.
I mean,
Okay.
I can't remember the last season I didn't pick LeBron. So
Cleveland in
team
7.
He's on is got to be the favorite. It's back in the Tiger versus the Field era,
right?
know?
We wrote you down then. Cleveland in 7. That's what I heard. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's jump out to the West for a few minutes here, Jared. And I think the way the seeding kind of ended up playing out with the Spurs falling to 6th, and they get that first-round matchup against the Clippers, the real winner out of that series, I think, is going to be Golden State, because those two teams probably are the two biggest threats to Golden State out West. But this Spurs-Clippers matchup, a lot of talk about the Spurs over the course of the season. 2 months ago, it was everybody talking about, the Spurs, the Magic's run out of it. Maybe they might not even make the playoffs yet. Here they are back in it. And even though only a 6 seed, had a chance to be a 2 seed there, but a team that I think you can't count out here in the playoffs. How do you like this Clippers-Spurs matchup to play out? It's almost kind of sad that it's got to be a first-round matchup. You'd kind of like to see it a little bit later on in the playoffs, but that's just the way it happened to fall this year.
I know, right? I mean, what is it, 5, 6 years we've been saying this? The Spurs are looking old. I don't know.
Yep.
At the All-Star break, there's other rising teams in the West. And then the Spurs just turn it on, and, I mean, they were the best team in the league for the last month probably, and Kawhi Leonard looks like an MVP candidate. Yeah, it is a shame. It's a shame we have to see this, because I agree with you. Given Portland's injuries, I don't really trust Houston. What happened to OKC? They're in the playoffs. I mean, I thought those were the other contenders maybe for the West. That these are probably these two teams that can contend with the Warriors, and one of them's going to be gone in a week and a half, 2 weeks. So,
who do you?
Shame.
Yeah, who do you like out of that series?
I guess the Spurs for sure. It is. I'm still kind of figuring out who these matchups are, because
right.
As of that Pacers-Grizzlies game, the Spurs still had a chance at 2 going into that night, and now they fall all the way to 6. I mean, I've never seen a season like this. But yeah, I mean, I think the Spurs are definitely the better team. As much as I like Doc Rivers, I think on the floor, X's and O's, they're a better coach team. They've been together for longer, and the Clippers bench is just really, really sad. It's not very good. Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and Chris Paul is, one of the best big threes, if not the best big 3 in the league. But after that, when you get to the bench, it really just falls off. And I think the Spurs, if their starters just stay even with the Clippers, and their starters are good enough to outplay them on certain nights, I think the Spurs bench will just, pick up 7, 6, 8 point leads consistently in that, late second quarter, early third quarter time,
So Mavericks.
So I think the Spurs get that probably in it's in LA, so that helps them. But it's hard to predict the games, but 6 or 7.
All right, Mavericks, Rockets. Harden plays well. Playoffs, he kind of lays an egg at times. Dallas is Dallas. Rondo had a little bit of trouble earlier in the year getting along with Carlisle, but that seems to be out of the way. Who you like in that?
That's maybe the toughest series to pick. I think we thought the West was going to be real difficult all around, one of the hardest conferences ever, and every first round series could be anyone. But I think this is the only one that it's really almost a toss up. I'll take Houston. James Harden has just been too good this year to doubt, especially against a team that's kind of as limited as Dallas is. Dirk's clearly, old now. Still could probably turn it on for a game or 2, but the way Rondo's looked, they just haven't looked like a very good team since he got there. Very inconsistent. Monte Ellis has had a bad stretch really since the All-Star break. So, I mean, it's a Texas rivalry. You could see them using that animosity to maybe really power their home crowd and get some games there. But I think Houston's definitely a better team. I'll take Houston for sure.
Jared Wade, 8points9seconds.com, joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3, and online, ESPNEvansville.com. As good as the West has been this season, Jared, are these playoffs just a formality? Should we just give it to Golden State to come out of the West and just not even worry about the other series?
It's tempting. I mean, but I wouldn't even say it's that the West has fallen off that much. They've fallen off some since what we thought. I just think Golden State is that good. They're first in offensive rating second in defensive rating. I think they're the first team since the 72-10 Bulls to have a top three on both sides of the ball. And again, no one even thinks about their defense, but they're, as good as anyone has been. They're Pacers level, peak Pacers from a few years ago level defense, and they have Klay Thompson and Steph Curry shooting the way they do. So it's just I could see them going through the whole playoffs and not even seeing a Game 7.
Is Steph Curry the league MVP this year?
He would get my vote. I don't have a ballot, but he would get my vote. Yeah, they won 67 games. The way he can just electrify a game. I mean, he's unguardable. He just dribbles backwards and just throws a shot over his head. And he makes them. This is the type of stuff that we, look at Gilbert Arenas or, Steve Francis and Stephen Marbury taking shots like this a few years ago, and people be writing columns against them. He's taking the exact same shots, but he makes them and everyone likes them. So it's just no one cares and he's unguardable.
Well, and then there's that story that was out the other day that he shot 100 3-pointers in practice and made 77 straight and like 94 of them overall. And I heard somebody say they better hope that Steph Curry doesn't get a cut on his leg to expose the wires and the motor oil because he's just a robot the way he's been playing. So if I understand correctly.
About that story, though, to me was the most shocking, and it's a personal thing, but the thing that makes him seem so good is that when I heard that, I wasn't even that surprised.
I know it. Yeah.
I believe he can do that. I can believe he can do anything now.
I'm right there with you. So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you got Cleveland out of the East, Golden State out of the West. So just in a few minute or two here, thoughts on how that could play out and who you would like to see or who you think might end up hosting that trophy when it's all said and done.
I think Golden State. I mean, a lot of people talk about them. They were bounced in the first round last year. They have a new coach, and it's really rare for a team to go from the first round to winning a title. But I just think they're that good, and I think we're to the point where they're so well led, they're so together, they're so solid on both ends of the ball, and the whole idea of jump shooting doesn't win championships has kind of been debunked by the Heat and the Spurs over the last few years. I don't think they have a type of shooting that just isn't going to go cold. They're not going to be off for 3 games in a row and just get knocked out. And they seem to have that cohesion that the Cavs I'm just a little more worried about. I can see in the finals, Game 3, them going down 2-1 and LeBron and Kyrie having a disagreement about who's dribbling the ball too much, and Kevin Love's kind of still an outsider on that team. So I can just see some chemistry issues and some on-court-ish problems where they're not really completely fluid and things like that. And I can see them falling apart a little bit in the finals where there's no situation where I see the Warriors unraveling.
Oh, you're crushing the hearts of the Cleveland fans. You know how long it's been since they've hoisted any kind of trophy in here? You're taking it away from them and giving it to Oakland.
Well, it's year 1. So, I mean, they've got a couple more years of LeBron and Kyrie together. So I think they'll get one. In year 1, still working out some X's and O's things, still working out some on-court chemistry. I think this isn't their year.
Great stuff, Jared. Jared Wade from 8points9seconds.com. Also check out his work on fansided.com. We appreciate the time, Jared. Enjoy the playoffs. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.